wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers. That means the Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Well, today, guys, we're doing a little bit something different for the beginning of the video. I was able to finally get one of these guys, even though he's been out for a while, but I thought I'd finally do a review of him. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what exactly I'm talking about. Ooh, secondary box. Ooh, look at that. Titans Return, Titan Class, Trypticon.
Let me get out of the sunlight here for you. Alrighty. That, my friend, is a nice looking packaging.
Well, he's a big behemoth.
Yep.
So, anyway, alrighty. Well, we will go ahead and take a look and see what it looks like out of the packaging. And today, guys, a little bit of a disclaimer. If you are watching this video, then you're probably asking yourself, wait, didn't you already do a Trypticon review? And I did. As a matter of fact, I really like how it turned out, but after uploading that video, I came across a few little things here and there on Trypticon that I learned, and there were some things that I kind of glossed over on the last review that I really wanted to come in and just expound on those a little bit more. So one of the first things is, one of the brand new things that I figured out was whenever he was in dinosaur mode, I saw these and I was like, well, what are those for? I looked at it and I'm like, wow, those are connection points for the Voyager class figures that he can attach to. On Overlord, the connection that is used, and you know the ones I'm talking about for the big base Transformers, they have the little connection ramps. Well, again, this is a similar connection system, and he has the appropriate connector deal on his back. So I was able to just kind of prop him up a little bit with his legs and connect him there. And I like it because overall, as a cohesive base, it makes it more in line, whereas before, it didn't really feel, I mean, it was connected by the ramp, but it didn't really feel connected to the base itself. It just kind of felt like a separate entity that just happened to be just, you know, snapped together. One of the things I did mention in my last review is you see this little area over here and over here as well. And it's kind of hard to see, but underneath there, right in this area, is kind of an empty garage area. Now, this will be Trypticon's stomach right here, this whole section. But there's a little garage area that you can see if it goes back here, all the way down here. You can store a bunch of Titan Masters in there if you want. And you can't store any of the Titan vehicles or the Titan Beasts because they can't fit through the door. It's only strictly the Titan Masters themselves. Let's go ahead and raise up the garage here, or the launch bay, depending on how you want to use it. And for that, we are going to go ahead and look at his partner, Full Tilt. Now, Full Tilt is a deluxe class size vehicle, and so if you want to compare them, let's just stick them right down there by Six Shot. You can see definitely the little bit of size difference between these guys. So, but as far as Full Tilt goes, and I want to make sure to get him in the shot this time, Full Tilt, you know what? Even for a Cybertronian car, I like it. I really do. He's on par with some of the newer Power of the Prime figures like Beachcomber, so he would be good to scale off against guys like this. Now, for his head, he does have a Titan Master for his head. So if you can kind of see it in there, there's his Titan Master Necro. It's nice to see just different molds of Titan Masters. You know, I mentioned in my other review that, you know, sometimes we just get a lot of the same Titan Master is just the body's recycled, and the only thing's different is the colors and the face. But speaking of the face, there is Full Tilt's head. The reason that Full Tilt is so intricate to the set is they've incorporated him. And this wasn't something that was used in the original G1, but what they did was they made it where you could include Full Tilt, and he gets attached to this piece right here. And that comes in, clips in. And for city mode, he attaches just right here. He then becomes the center tower between these two. But eventually he will flip down to become the cannon for the spaceship mode, which that's why that little detail is there to make him look like a cannon, even though very clearly you see, you know, vehicle wheels sticking off the side of it, which is a little odd. This thing is just absolutely littered in 5mm peg holes that actually do work like they're supposed to. And, you know, like I said, for your Titan Masters and soon to be Prime Masters, they can fit many different places on Trypticon. Here we have Trypticon in his, as they officially call it, again, his spaceship mode. Now, one of the fun little facts about Trypticon spaceship mode. In the old G1 Trypticon, his head kind of sat down like this in the old base one. Now, they've brought it up here, and even though it's on behind everything where you're not going to see it, they even went to as much detail as to try and kind of cover up his eyes, but you can still tell by the mouth down here and everything. So, you know, hey, I'll give them credit for doing what to go into at least that little extent. But on the old one, and this one alike, what they did was the front of the base or ship mode was actually meant to mimic his T-Rex head. You can see here's supposed to be like the eyes, and here's kind of the jaw and stuff. And I always like that because, as you'll see later on in Dino mode, there on the bridge of his nose, he has a gun there too. So the fact that this back end mimicking his T-Rex parts, and especially some of the functionality, I thought that was just kind of cool. And so we'll do just instead a little bit of size comparison. So if we go ahead and tilt you back here. Here is Overlord's jet mode. So you can see how overall dwarf, I mean, he could even dock on on Trypticon because he's so much bigger. And let's go ahead and we'll compare him to Overlord's tank mode. Again, super tiny when you look at it, you know, and you guys know how big Voyager figures are. So, and for one more comparison, since we just have them right here, here is Trypticon. We get 6-shot in tank mode. Okay, guys, this is more of what Trypticon's traditional G1 pose. If you ever watched the cartoon, he walked more upright. So, like I said, this is probably my favorite mode. Now, one of the things is, on the old Trypticon right here where this panel is, you would just pull open the panel and you would have to pull out the cannon. Well, this whole thing is on a spring. There's a spring under here, so you just slightly pull it and it'll pop the whole thing out, which is cool. I mean, I love the cannon that's on there. It's really, I mean, there's lots of detailing in that. So, and while we're looking at it, one of the things that also G1 Trypticon had was these missiles in his tongue. But on here, there is so much range of motion with his arms and his wrists and his claws. I love how huge these are. Matter of fact, if you have a loose Titan Master, because his claws are big enough to where he can hold on to a Titan Master. So if it's closed correctly, he should be able to hold on to him. So this is, again, right here where you can see that Full Tilt is attached to his chest. Again, this is more of a G1 aesthetic because the old toy could do that. But say you didn't want to have Full Tilt on there. Well, again, that, you know, we attach that piece in base mode. If anytime you want to take him off there, you can do that. And so there's just this little part right here where his stomach opens up. It's just slightly recessed in there, and let's see if I can get that. You can kind of see how much of a recess it has as opposed to the rest of the body. And so, you know, Full Tilt, it bumps it out far enough to where you wouldn't notice that, but when you remove Full Tilt, it does become just slightly noticeable. This for Full Tilt, let's go ahead and see what he looks like in robot mode. Full Tilt has a tough time. You have to really kind of force it into his Titan Master joint there. If you kind of saw it a little bit, I had to really push it down in there. But that's a good thing as opposed to like Scourge, which his head just wobbled around like a bobblehead. So we get in full tilt his weapon, and as you guys can kind of see, he is a really nice looking Decepticon. I really love all the detailing. His head is so killer. I really dig that. Even the detailing on his chest. That aside, if you want to go ahead and look, here he is next to his full scale. But for a little bit more size comparison next to these guys, you want to go ahead and drop in Overlord right here. Let's just go ahead and drop in a Combiner behind here. You can see even a Combiner, how dwarfed he is compared to Trypticon. Trypticon is huge. Metroplex is his actual nemesis, so if you had both figures, Metroplex's chest comes up to just right about here, just off camera. So he's a little bit shorter, but the thing is it's not too bad of a difference. But the last feature that this Trypticon has become very well known for, and I've mentioned his stomach several times, and if you've seen like Pion's review and other ones like that, he actually eats Titan Masters. But actually he has a hole right here in his mouth. And let's see if you can kind of see that. You can kind of see his little throat back there. It's kind of hard to show off whenever the light isn't. But anyway, one of the funny things I noticed was on his, right here, right before the throat, there's two little pegs for a Titan Master. So if you, and some of these, one thing I forgot to mention, some of these pegs for Titan Masters, the holes on their feet, some of these pegs feel like they're just slightly too big for the Titan Masters. And I'm assuming the eventual Prime Masters. But one of the things I wanted to reference is if you can do it just right, it looks like the Titan Master is trying to avoid being eaten, like he's resisting it. But unfortunately for you, Ape Face, you're going down the gullet. So you just throw them in there. There's 1, 2, 3. Enjoy the ride. 4, and I think Pion got somewhere close to 30, if I'm not mistaken, in the chest cavity. Now, when full tilt's on this chest door, it does tend to want to drop a little bit easier just because it has that added weight. But whenever he's not attached, you can see that there's nothing pulling on it. So anyway, if we go ahead and open up this little cavity, you see all your Titan Masters are right there. It's easy to get them out and everything. Alrighty guys, well that was basically it, but I did want to kind of mention that you know, I realize that some of you, my viewers, like how I normally do my videos as opposed to the way that me and Steel Raven shot the last one. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and do this, so that it'd be more in line. I mean, obviously the entire time I was shooting it, he couldn't fit in there. But again, you know, I liked how, you know, Steel Raven's like a little brother to me, so I was glad that he was gracious enough to come in and shoot that review with me. But like I said, for those of you that like the more normal style that I shoot my videos, that was one reason that I went ahead and did Trypticon again. But like I also mentioned at the beginning of the video, that there were some of those small weird things that I only came across recently that I felt that for a Trypticon video, those things shouldn't be left out, and I wanted to clarify some of the things from the first video. Until next time, we'll see you in another review.